Yo, what's up? It's Owen from RSD. Just looking at the shot I got here. And had a long day. So, been getting a lot of questions about meditation. And I thought today would be a great day to answer them. So let's do it. Had a lot of questions asked about this for a long time. People are curious. My thoughts on the topic of meditation. So even though I'm not the best person to answer these questions, because there's a lot of different people that are experts at it, a lot of people were curious what my thoughts were on it. So I'll give you my opinion. And if you like the sorts of ideas that I throw at you, then what I'd encourage you to do is go out and find a better teacher, someone who is really, really good at it, and they can teach you how to do meditation in a more detailed way. But I guess a lot of people were curious about my opinions on it because I'm not some like spiritual woo-woo guy. I'm just kind of like a practical dude and interested in the more practical ramifications of it. So, you know, if you want my thoughts on it, here they are. And otherwise, you can go out and look elsewhere. Okay, so meditation is basically the idea that you spend 20 minutes a day doing nothing. Okay? No thinking about the future, no thinking about the past, but literally just resting your awareness in the present moment. All right, so say I was going to do that. Sit here with you and do it right now. I'm going to cross my legs, but actually, funny enough, and this is the first thing I'll teach you, you don't need to cross your legs, actually. I'm not even very flexible. Look at this. I can barely even cross my legs. Probably some people that are into yoga could teach me how to do that. But I'm not flexible at all. So usually I'll just sit in a chair in my home and do it. I want to get as comfortable as possible. And basically, just resting my awareness on the present moment, I would do the following. Okay, fun stuff, huh? All right, well, that's basically all that meditation is. So you just sit down. You could lie down if you want. I guess you could stand up. I usually just sit in a chair, like I said, and you don't think. All right, so if I tell you not to think, what's going to happen? Well, the first thing you're probably going to be prone to doing is judging yourself for how much you're thinking. So you'll be like, okay, don't think. Oh, wait, now I'm thinking. Shit, now I just said I'm thinking. Okay, don't think, but look at that leaf over there. It's green. Shit, I'm thinking about the leaf. I'm so bad at this. How do they do this? How could you spend 20 minutes doing this? How could someone spend a week doing this? Right, so that's usually what happens when someone first tries meditation. So what we'll do right now is an exercise where I'm going to ask you to not think for, say, 5 seconds. And rather than not think, since that's not going to be effective, what I want you to do is simply shift your awareness. So fuck not thinking and simply shift your awareness into your breathing. Okay, so as you breathe, just be like, what I do there, just shifted my awareness to my breathing. Okay, so let's spend right now 5 seconds, only 5 seconds, just basically shifting your awareness from all the thoughts that you have projecting into the future of things you got to do and concerns that you have or possible paths you're going to take. Stop thinking about the past and all these things that have happened to you and analyzing them, and simply shift your awareness away from those and onto the fact that you are currently breathing. Okay. All right, so maybe you're watching this and you had no problem doing that whatsoever. But on the flip side, maybe you're watching this and that was actually very difficult for you. If it was very difficult for you, again, I got to really emphasize, stop judging. Stop getting caught up in how well you're doing. And if you do have a thought like, how well am I doing? What I want you to do is let it go. So anytime that you do meditation and a thought comes into your mind, rather than analyzing it or rather than clasping onto it like a pit bull, just simply watch it float by, so to speak. Okay? Sounds kind of funny, but you know, watch it float by. So say you're meditating, you're like, and you're present, no thoughts at all, just aware of the sounds, feelings in your body, aware of the energy in your body. That's it. And then suddenly you think, oh, do I have to pay my rent? Rather than saying, shit, I have to pay my rent. Fuck. Oh, I thought, shit, fuck. like that. Instead, just be like, I have to pay my rent, and then go, like, kind of like be aware, like, oh, I had a thought, but just be aware that you had a thought, and then back out. So it's almost like when you're present to the moment, okay, present to the moment, again, not in the future, not in the past, but right here, you're just present to the moment. When you lose that focus, either into the future or the past, it's almost like a set of binoculars or a camera that's like that, right, back into your head, and then you gotta go back out, okay? So it'd almost be like if I took this camera lens and went like that, and then back out. That's basically how you want to think about it. Okay, now, let's say that you do this for 20 minutes a day, okay? Let's say you're doing 20 minutes a day of this. What you're gonna find is that sometimes you'll have a couple seconds or even a couple of minutes where you're really, really present to the moment. It's really clear. It's a very relaxing feeling. You're not eager for it to end. You're just completely clear. You're just aware of your boring room. Now, of course, this is probably one of the most beautiful places on the planet, at least in my opinion. So don't worry about the fact that you're not there. I usually do this in a room. In fact, to be honest, if I was sitting in my family room, it would probably be easier to do than here, which most people would probably disagree with, but that's just my personal prerogative, because I'm used to doing it at home, right? At home, I can just stare at the wall. I literally just stare at the wall. Now, you might have questions like, should you stare at one specific point? What happens if you look around? What happens if you cough? What happens if you shift? And so here's some of my answers for that. All right, so what I like to do is I like to do it for 20 minutes. So I'll set my alarm on my phone actually for 21 minutes. And I do that so psychologically, I've given myself 1 minute to shift around. You'll find when you first sit down, you want to scratch little itches. You want to swallow a bunch of times. You want to maneuver yourself so that you're comfortable. And if you don't limit that to around a minute or two, I use about a minute, you'll keep wanting to scratch, keep wanting to shift, keep wanting to make it better. But what's kind of weird, this is really weird about meditation, is that if you just stay still and you accept it, so for example, when the itch comes, much like the thought that you don't clasp onto, you simply accept that the itch is there and don't analyze it or try to resist it. You just sort of let it go and surrender to the fact that this annoying itch is there or this annoying posture that you're sitting in is there. You'll find it kind of goes away, which is intense, right? It's intense to think about that. I even find, and I don't know if anyone else finds this, but I find that I don't even need to swallow saliva as much if I'm very present to the moment. It just doesn't seem to come up, and I don't know if that's completely delusional, but that tends to be what I find. Now, I'm not going to do this perfectly. So if I meditate for 20 minutes, it's pretty unlikely that I'm honestly going to sit there for 20 minutes perfectly. At some point, I'm probably going to shift around. At some point, I'm probably going to swallow. At some point, I'm probably going to cough. Maybe once or twice. But notice that you shifted it from an ongoing need to do this to maybe just a few different times. If it's distracting you to the point that it's messing up your session, then just deal with it. But otherwise, don't worry about it. Accept it and just let it flow past. Okay, now, how about as far as how long to do it? Why do I like to do it for 20 minutes? Well, for me, 20 minutes is really good because I find that around maybe the 8 to 16 minute mark type thing, I'll become very present. So definitely the first 5-10 minutes for me, I'm not going to slip into it as easily. And then a little bit later, I'll become very, very present and I'll slip into it no problem at all. So, what's up, dude? So, the reason that I want to do it a little bit longer is just that if I only do it for 1 minute, it's really not that different than just sitting down for a minute. If I do it for too long, then I'm utilizing huge chunks of my day to practice becoming present. And that's not really something that I'm interested in doing, to tell you the truth. So, the way that I like to do it is I like to just become present for about 20 minutes. And ideally, I kind of slip in and out of states of like being very, very present to not being that present. And then what will happen is usually in the last maybe 12 minutes to say 4 or 5 minutes, I'm really, really present. But I don't want you to be analyzing it. I don't want you to be saying, how well did I do with meditation today? Did I do well? Did I do bad? You'll kind of know because some sessions are just so clear and other sessions are pretty slow going and, you know, not that different than just sort of sitting there and thinking and thinking and thinking. But that doesn't really matter, okay? It's a lot like going out and learning game, where some nights are amazing and you're in the zone, and other nights you're just not. Meditation parallels this to a freakishly similar extent. How about eyes open versus eyes closed? Okay, so I like to do eyes open because when I keep my eyes open, that means that when I go up to a woman and I'm talking to her, I can look at her like this, and I don't have a lot of flinching going on. So I'm not going, like, if she gives me, say she says, you're a pasty white, short, balding ginger. Instead of going, like, twitching and getting upset, I'm just like, something like that, right? I'm kind of like overthinking this now. But anyway, that tends to be how I am. So meditation with my eyes open, it trains me to actually become present in a dynamic environment. A lot of people are into meditation as a subculture. So for example, they're in it to try to become spiritually enlightened. And that's cool. If you want to become spiritually enlightened, that's pretty cool. But the reason that I'm focused on it is that I like the day-to-day practical benefits. So that's why I like to do it with my eyes open, so that I'm not like present, like I'm like a little ball of light. Then I open my eyes, I'm like like that. I want to train myself to be present in my everyday life. So I like to go eyes open, seated anywhere, and I put on an alarm because I don't like to wonder how much longer I have. I've personally just found that if I don't know how long I have, that I'm going to keep wondering about it. And now that I do it all the time, I can generally sense the 20 minutes, but I prefer to just put an alarm, and different people have different opinions about this. I do it before bed because I'm a night person, and if I do it in the morning, I just find it's completely almost like a waste of my time. Sometimes I'll do a couple minutes in the morning, but then I do it properly every night. But most people, funny enough, conversely like to do it in the morning. And they like to do it in the morning because they find it sets off their day right. I'm just not a morning person. That could be from years of going out late at night. It could be for any reason. I don't know why. I just find that I'm really, really clear thinking late at night. Now, funny enough, you'd think to yourself, well, if you do meditation right before bed, would the benefits of being more present to the moment carry over into the next day? And what I find is that they do. Basically what happens is that meditation kind of trains your mind to stay in a different zone. So for example, I hiked in here about 11 miles. And what you'll tend to find is, like with an 11-mile hike, which is up and down cliffs. So if you look at the cliffs in the background, you're hiking along the sides of stuff like that, and stuff actually a lot more sketchy, is that the first mile, you really resist it. You're like, oh, this is miserable. I'm so tired. And then the joke that I like to give, and this is just a joke, because I like to be kind of like ironic, is I say you have to give up hope. So I'll say this to my buddies, like, they're like, how much longer is this? Is it harder? I'm like, give up hope. There's no hope. This is all there is. Endless pain. And I'll say that to them. And it's a joke, but what I'm trying to say, because I like to be pretty sarcastic a lot of the time and just kind of clown around, I'm trying to say is don't resist it. Don't sit there thinking, how much longer do I have? How much longer is this going to be? This is uncomfortable. Just get rid of all that. Just surrender to it completely. When you do that, rather than thinking, how far have I gone? Or rather than thinking, how much further is it for me to get here? What you'll find is you just think about the next step. And when you're focused on the next step, what that does is it draws your perception out of the mind and towards each step that's in front of you. That is so vital on a trail like the ones that you see here, because if you roll your ankle out here, or hurt your knee, or cut yourself up, I'm sure you'll find a way out one way or another, but it's going to be completely miserable. So you do not want that to happen. So you want to be fully immersed in each step that you take. This is no different than, say, building a business that might take a decade or two. If you start thinking about how far you have to go, you could go crazy. So you want to think to an extent, because you want to be thinking about your plans. You want to kind of like change the direction. But then once you kind of change the direction, you can kind of come back. You can kind of come back out of your thinking mind and just stay present to exactly what's in front of you. If you see the type of work I do right now, I like to do my free tour event. You've probably seen videos of that. Then I have my hot seat event, and then I do boot camp. And I've been doing that actually on tour for a couple of years now. So every single time I do a free tour, when I walk to the free tour, I know that I'm going to go do it. I don't think ahead. I've seen a lot of people who do jobs similar to mine. They psych themselves out. I don't do that at all. I'm just in a good mood. And then I get there, I'm like, oh, I'm at the free tour. And then I kind of melt into the moment. I merge into it and just rock it. And I love being up there because it makes me very present and time just breezes by. There's nowhere else I'd rather be. And then when I do hot seat, oftentimes I'm on like 2 or 3 hours sleep only because I like to run my boot camps really late. Because once I start doing boot camp, I'm having so much fun I don't like to sleep and I'll just keep running them. So sometimes I'll run them really, really late. And then I wake up in the morning to do my hot seat event early in the morning and I'm totally exhausted and I think, how am I going to do this? And again, I just don't think. And then I just get there and I start to get into it and I start to love it. And then I get out into boot camp and I think, oh man, I'm going to have to approach all these girls and it's going to be all crazy. And again, I just don't think. You just go about it and you merge into the process. So you get away from thinking about the outcome and you take the joy in the process itself. So the paradox of being completely immersed in the process is that you wind up getting to the outcome more effectively. It's like if you approach a girl and you're just having so much fun talking to her, as long as you have a general idea of the general direction that you want to go, when you're fully immersed in the process of it, you're having so much more fun, you're just such a cooler guy that you wind up getting her. You'll notice this especially even in the late phases when you've got the girl in your room and she's not sure if she's going to sleep with you or not. When you're just completely present with her, just completely there, she detects no outcome from you. You're a lot funnier, you're a lot more sexual, you're a lot more in the moment in terms of your sexuality. She just winds up hooking up with you. Meanwhile, if you're like, I gotta get laid, right? Then you're less likely to do it. You're less likely to be funny. You're less likely to entice her. So from doing meditation regularly, it's similar to the 11-mile hike in here where, that first mile, your brain is still caught up in this continual mode of getting to the next outcome, getting to the next outcome, getting to the next outcome. But when you hike for 11 miles, after a while, it really just kind of breaks you down. It just gets you to the point of complete surrender and you start to enjoy the hike itself. So what you realize is that it's not the destination, but the journey that's actually fun. And really this goes for life because the end destination of life is to be dead. So the journey of life is the fun itself. All right, so when you do meditation every day, you're actually training your mind to get into that zone, into that sweet spot. You're conditioning yourself to do this. You can also do this by going out. You can also do this by any type of flow state activity. So any activity that actually puts you into a flow state, you'll find will achieve a similar benefit to meditation. But what I find is that sometimes people will use flow state activities as an excuse not to do meditation, or they'll use thinking a lot and planning their day a lot as an excuse not to do meditation. So sometimes I'll tell people about meditation, they'll say, oh, that's kind of like what I do, I'll be in the shower and I plan out my day for like an hour. That was a buddy of mine who said that. Or they'll say, yeah, I'll just go out into the woods and really think about my life and what I'm doing with it. And that's very different. That's a different activity. I know with girls, they'll say that dancing can be a very good flow state activity, or surfing, things like that. And again, these are amazing activities, just like for me, public speaking and teaching are my flow state activities that I love more than anything. But meditation is actually a 20-minute chunk per day where you're spending it with the deliberate intention of training your mind to slip into that spot. Eckhart Tolle, who wrote the books The Power of Now and A New Earth, two of my favorite books ever, he talks about the analogy of a bicycle tire that's spinning and it has its own momentum. So when you stop pushing on the tire, what winds up happening is eventually it loses that momentum and becomes still. Another example would be like crossing a stream. So if you're going to cross a stream and you want to see what's at the bottom of it, if you keep shaking up the bottom of it, you'll never see it. It'll never be clear. But if you stop shaking the bottom of it, eventually you'll be able to see with clarity, okay? Or maybe a better analogy than a stream, because that's always kind of moving, would be like a little body of water, some little small body of water, right? If you keep kicking the dirt around, you won't get clarity. So you need to stop. And that's really what meditation is you're training your mind to stop. So say that I sit here, and I'm like, I'm thinking, right? And then I go like, okay, I'm onto my breath now. Well, that kind of trained me one way to get present. But then let's say that I go back into my head, and then maybe I shift my awareness to the sounds, which are actually pretty cool. I don't know how well you can hear it through the mic. I hear birds and waves and wind, so can't beat that. That's pretty good. If you're at home, you'd probably hear like a refrigerator or something like that. So that could be another way to get present. Another way could be to take conscious breaths, and you shift your focus to that. But funny enough, another way could be to just observe the breath and not put any deliberate energy into animating your breath. And some people find that to be better. Sometimes I find just like I get into a zone where I'm just completely out of my head and I'm just there. It's like locked in. That's kind of intense too, because you can be present for like 7-8 minutes straight doing that, and when you kind of knock back into it, you're like, whoa, like that was fucking present. So when you're present, I think a lot of people are assuming they're going to get some kind of like extreme bliss out of it, and I don't think that that's the case. But rather what you get is a sense of general peace. So you're not thinking very much, and your body is not having these cortisol, adrenaline responses that you would normally be having throughout the day. So there's a great book by a guy named Herbert Benson, who was a Harvard medical doctor, and he called that book The Relaxation Response. So you can look that up, The Relaxation Response by Herbert Benson. And what he basically explained there is that we have something called a fight or flight response. And a fight or flight response is the idea that in nature, you would experience stress in short bursts. So for example, you might bump into a lion and get this like huge surge of adrenaline that shuts off your body's natural repair mechanisms and basically just directs all of the body's energy into being really alert and having a lot of energy. So that would be good in nature, because then you'd run away from the animal and then you could go back to your village and you'd be totally fine. But what happens in modern society is that the threat might be something like coming up with rent money, or some kind of social scenario that's bothering you, or different complexities of modern life. And that fight or flight response is at like a refrigerator hum low level that's almost unnoticeable when you're in it, and it stays there permanently. So this causes people to get sick, shortens your life, compromises your immune system. It's not a good stress. A positive stress, they call that eustress, okay? Eustress. And that's something more like where, you go on like a roller coaster ride or play like an exciting sports game or watch an exciting sports game where the stress is actually invigorating. But chronic low-level stress is not healthy for you. So what meditation does, and this is what Herbert Benson explains, is it elicits a relaxation response. So it actually flushes the cortisol and adrenaline out of your system. Some people also believe that when you meditate, you're actually summoning like a recharging of energy that goes very, very deep into the cells. So while you're sitting there, you might feel like you're accomplishing nothing, but actually you're recharging. You are soaking in good present energy. See, what most people tend to do is they get addicted on either stimulus, like Facebook, Twitter, like that, right? Energy drink, Red Bull, gossip, bullshit, shit talk, whatever. What do people think of me? Shit like that. Validation. I guess I got a lot of these. Or what they get addicted to is lower consciousness, like alcohol, blah, pizza, carbs, blah. Okay? They want to become unconscious. Well, what meditation teaches you to do is it teaches you to stop the cycle of being addicted to stimulation or to being unconscious, and instead it grounds you in an energy more like that, okay? Except instead of the sound of instead of that sound, you just hear nothing. But it's kind of like that. And this is why teachers of meditation will use things like little bells that go ding, or a candle that just kind of stays there flickering constantly, because you're training your mind to be present. The more that you can train your mind to be present, what's happening is that you are removing yourself from the cycle of basically being run by biological impulses and external social influences, and you're creating a center of gravity within yourself where you start to develop your own willpower, your own sort of, how could I put it? I mean, think of it like all through society and just through biology, there's like these different forces that are at play, and you're kind of sponging them up and then spewing them back out. Well, what meditation does is it makes it so that you are the center of gravity, and your ideas or your intentions in life are coming from within and going outwards. So what you'll find is that whether you're happy or sad, or say having a good experience or a bad experience, are not as relevant to you anymore when you do meditation, because you realize that you can be peaceful just within yourself. So it takes the pressure away of constantly achieving certain life goals and allows you just to enjoy the process. It's kind of crazy, right? Some people, when they do meditation, it really messes them up actually, because they realize that they can achieve complete contentment and happiness on a deeper level than even making money or even getting laid, which is kind of crazy to think about. And so they think, why should I get girls? Why should I make money? Why should I do anything? I just want to sit here. And that's pretty, I think, kind of low-level thinking for most people, unless your life's purpose is going to be to teach presence and to just be that source of present energy for other people, and you want to just sit there for hours and hours so you can be that person. But unless you're going to do that, I don't think that's ideal. Rather, what I think is that when you do meditation, it helps you and prods you to reconsider your life, reconsider what drives you or what motivates you, and to align yourself with your life's purpose. And that can be a really tough one for a lot of people, because finding your life's purpose is, that can be a doozy, to say the least. But when you find it, you find that you get your main enjoyment in life out of being engaged in the process of whatever your life's purpose is. So for me, it's kind of funny, but you probably can tell this if you watch my stuff. What I love the most is doing videos like these, teaching live, which is huge for me, and then practicing game. And I like to practice game because I teach it. So I like to teach something really awesome. And then the other thing I really like doing is meditation, because that helps me with my life's purpose. So that helps me to bring a lot of presence into it. A lot of people will say about my videos, they'll say it's like addictive, or it's like crack, things like that. And I laugh at that. I think that's so funny, because the reason why people, I think, if they like my stuff, which some people do and don't, but the people who do like it, the reason why they say it's addictive, what they don't realize is that because I do meditation, if I do a video from a place of presence, which, some have that element and some probably have that much less so, like a lot less so, but the ones that have it help people to become re-grounded in their own present energy. So they think it's the video that's addictive, but actually what it is that it's coming from a place of presence, which is conditioned from that 20-minute-a-day meditation habit, and then it's putting them in touch with themselves. So they're actually addicted to themselves, which is funny to think about. That's what they like. They see, sound very cheesy, they see someone else's inner light, and it puts them in touch with their own inner light, and I know this sounds very cheesy, and then they attribute that to what they're seeing, but it's actually them. So if there's a musician who you really like, for example, someone whose music you really get into, you really connect with, you're thinking it's the music that you love, and you do love the music, but what you also love is what is reconnecting you to in yourself. And meditation every day is something that can help you to do that. It's amazing for pickup in the sense that it teaches you self-amusement, teaches you not to rely on women for good emotions at all, so totally takes their power away from you, not to sound win-lose, but it really does. When you do meditation every day, women have a lot less power over you than when you don't, because you've removed yourself from the cycle of being addicted on their validation, or at least minimized it quite a bit. Lets you go in a lot stronger, you're funnier, you're sharper, your game basically goes up, 3 to 4 times. You basically just get so good in game because, again, you enjoy the process so much. So you're just so sharp and so good with the process that it really just improves it. It's really just awesome. So anyway, I guess what I would sort of kind of emphasize here, and I love that the sun's going down, it's fucking gorgeous, is that what I think that you learn from meditation is rather than feeling like you're a person, like you're a person, which is what most people think. They think I'm this like separate entity. And by the way, we got to check out the sunset. Check this out. You realize that actually everyone's kind of connected. So you look at this ocean here, and you see the different waves on it, and you think that you are, this unique person, but in fact you're part of something bigger than yourself, right? See the sun going down there. So you think that you're this really unique individual, and this person who is on their own in life. But in fact what's happening is you're really just like this energy that has kind of congealed together temporarily, will kind of express itself, much like how one of these waves expresses itself, and then will sink back into the whole. Okay, so that's kind of what meditation teaches you. And here, I'll try to reestablish our shot, make it look real nice. Looks nice, I think. Okay, so good enough. I guess you can't really go wrong with a shot in an environment like this. You can't really fuck this up. Okay, so point being is that in meditation, because you become very present, okay, try to follow me here, you become present to the moment. What happens is that you've come to the realization that it's almost like you have the different wants that the biological entity of yourself has, and then you have like a higher consciousness, which is that present energy. And what's kind of crazy is that everybody has that higher consciousness in them. It's kind of nuts, right? When you become present, they call that a higher consciousness. It sounds very funny. And you realize that everyone has that in them. And that light is almost pushing through you, right? And so you're like this crystal that lets the light come through. And some people, the crystal is very closed off because they're caught in their head. So they get trapped in different energetic cycles that can be very negative. Like they get a negative thought kind of jumps onto them and they go crazy. But when you've kind of become present, that energy, that higher consciousness can shine through you, and you're like the crystal that it shines through and makes different patterns. And you realize that even when you die, and you will die, that although the biological entity, like the crystal's gone, that light is still there. And essentially through meditation, what you're doing is you are becoming more and more identified as the quote-unquote silent observer behind the thoughts, instead of as this petty little individual who has all these different problems and isn't getting the results that you want. So the more that you're identified with that higher consciousness, and the more that you're grounded in that, there is a less urgent fear of death, which sounds funny, because you realize that if you're that light is everywhere. So the form dies, but the light continues on. And if you're very identified with the form, then death is really scary. But if you're identified with the light, then it's not as scary. Still pretty scary, not gonna lie, right? But a lot less scary. And in fact, what tends to happen is that in frightening situations, like say you're walking along the side of the cliff, that light starts to shine through so much stronger that you actually have no fear at all. So in a situation that is scary to you, the presence actually emanates through so strongly that you completely dissolve into presence, and you actually feel fucking amazing. So that's another reason why when you do things that scare you a little bit, but you learn how to become present to the moment through meditation, it's really an amazing feeling. It's an amazing, amazing feeling. And as you go through life, you're actually dissolving more and more. Your identification with your form is dissolving more and more with all these thoughts that you're having, which are generated through thinking about the past or going into the future, and you're more identified with that present moment, quote-unquote, higher consciousness. And as you get older and older, that creates more space for that higher consciousness, and you become almost like a young person again. So you see some older people become more and more identified with their form, and because their form is breaking down, they can be pretty miserable. And then other people, as they get older, can actually become more childlike. But even in spite of being childlike, they're more intelligent. And that's what Eckhart Tolle would call flowering, right? So basically, it's like sometimes you have or he calls that a flowering of consciousness, right? So you have like a plant, and some plant will get like the nice flower, and others won't, depending on how much sun it gets. So if it flowers, that's almost like a human being who has gone back to that kind of childlike present moment awareness, but through that sort of crystal that is shining through of all the life experiences and knowledge and abilities and all that. So it's a really nice combination, because a childlike awareness is beautiful, but it is a child, right? It's limited. Whereas somebody who has gone back to that childlike awareness, but is highly intelligent, resourceful, competent, driven, those kinds of things, what happens then is that just their manifestation of their different intents that they have becomes really amazing to watch. It's really, really cool. Awesome, right? And some of the top people in the world have that. But let's get back to practical stuff. So we'll think about the game-related stuff. Just to kind of conclude with it, people who are kind of into meditation, like for the chill reasons and stuff, they want to be very chill. They're kind of already converted. Okay, they already want it. They already are doing this. So I don't want to really relate with people that are in that mode. But what I'd really like to do would be to relate to somebody who wants to make a lot of cash, fuck really hot women, and be a gangster. All right, not a gangster like a real gangster, although he could be a real gangster too, but a gangster in life, okay, a dominator. What I would tell you is that a lot of the top business people do this, because when you think about the difference between, for example, a boss who's effective versus, say, an ineffective employee, what's the common difference? The ineffective employee gets upset when they don't get their petty little things going in their direction, whereas the boss can always look at the bigger picture and solve the damn problem. Well, the boss has to be very present to the moment. The boss has to not get caught up in their emotions. Whereas the ineffective employee has the luxury of whining and complaining, because it's not going to tank the whole company, right? They just get their little problem fixed and they're happy. So if you want to be a boss in life, you don't want to be overly reactive to your emotions. Also, the highs and lows, you don't want to be so identified with the high that when it goes low, you're upset. You don't want to be so identified with the low that you stay there. So you want to be kind of even-keeled. On top of that, if you want to be effective, you want to be fully immersed in whatever you do. If you're going to win an NBA championship, you want to be pretty immersed in that, right? So this is the kind of thing that helps you to think more clearly. It makes you more effective. It makes you funnier. I can say for sure that my public speaking is much, much sharper, 3 to 4 times sharper when I do meditation every day. I can say for sure that my game, my results are wild when I do meditation every day, and go down substantially and shockingly when I don't. And I can basically just tell you that a lot of really smart individuals do this, okay? So it's funny that as you start to move up in the world, your mind starts to take note of different habits that people that are making a lot of cash and getting a lot of success have. You're seeing different habits they have that you wouldn't have noticed when you weren't as successful, because you just weren't thinking how they think. And meditation is one of those habits. It's one of those elite level habits that a lot of people have. Now, some people again would say, why not just be motivated by results? If I just want to fuck hot women and make money, what's the problem with that? Well, again, you're getting identified with stimulation, and that's not the deepest level of contentment that you could have. And you're basically entrapping yourself in a less mature paradigm of life. So what you kind of realize, for example, say you come out to a place like this. Say that I wanted to go climb up every little peak and, hit up every beach, and I'm rushing around trying to get to each one. I get there, I'm like, oh, I'm at the beach now. Yeah. Okay, the cliff. And then I go do that. I might go do all that, but I could actually be just as stressed as I am in the city. So then let's say at the end of the day, I stop and do meditation for 20 minutes a day, and then I become completely content. I realize, oh shit, it doesn't really matter if I go to every peak or hit up every beach. I'll just go to some of them and be fully present while I'm there. So it doesn't matter the individual things that I'm doing. What matters is my experience of it, and I want to maximize my experience of that. It's like you could go, if you say you've slept with 50 girls, you might notice that you can barely remember the majority of those girls. Well, if you're very present to the moment, usually the sex becomes a lot hotter and you have a better memory of it. It has more meaning to you. So you want to be fully present for whatever experience you're having. Okay, so it just basically boosts your results up. All right, so it's pretty gangster shit, does some amazing things. I'm going to wrap up. Actually, I was asking on the forum on RC Nation what questions people had about meditation. So I'm just going to go through them to wrap up here. Okay, so first question was style, length, time of day, position, eyes, posture, alarm. I think we went through that, right? Style is just whatever you want. Length, I like to do 20 minutes. You can do whatever you want. Notice the big key here being whatever you want. Time of day, whatever you want. I do nighttime. Position, whatever you want. Eyes, I like to do open. You should do whatever you want. What kind of thoughts you have, again, they're in there for a bit and then they kind of clear out. Posture, whatever you want. All these different meditation people will tell you have to cross your legs and this and that to get the cosmic energy. Whatever you want. And then the alarm I like to do so I don't wonder about it, but again, whatever you want. How does it feel? Calm, like this. Nice and calm. Demonstration, I just did it. Some people are asking, do I like things like holosync or different meditation aids? I think for some people it's probably great. For me, I like to do meditation to train myself to be present in day-to-day life, so I don't like using it, but some people get great results with it. Me, I just do it the way I do it. How does it help game? Immerses you in the present moment, makes you funnier, sharper, less needing validation, more self-amused, more drawing straight from within, more of a fucking gangster, more aggressive, more effective, makes you enjoy sex more, makes you more sexual. Yeah. Dude, if you're in a game, you're spending 3-4 hours a night going out, add the 20 minutes of fucking meditation, okay? It's obvious. Another thing it's good for is creating vacuums with girls, so you can talk to them and just be like, and then they want to talk back to you, so you call that creating a vacuum. Skipping a day versus starting over. Yeah, sometimes you miss a day, and that's not good. So actually, this is actually a really important lesson. That's actually a great question right there. Really good question, probably the most important part of the back in this video, actually. I make a deal with myself that come hell or high water, I'm going to do it. So when I say come hell or high water, I'm going to do it, what I mean is that, say that I stay up until 5 or 6 in the morning, and then I really need to go to bed, I will still do it. And the reason why is because you'll find that at first, when you do meditation, the biggest challenge is that you're always finding a reason not to do it. It's pretty intense, okay? You're always finding a reason not to do meditation. So you gotta make yourself do it. If you don't make yourself do it come hell or high water, what you'll find is that you will never, ever do it. You will literally go months without doing it. It will shock you. And the reason why is because you're addicted to that stimulation unconsciousness cycle, and you're actually resisting doing it. So you have to make that deal with yourself to come hell or high water. Even if it's going to make you sleepy, you'll do it. Look, even if you're down to only getting 4 hours sleep that night, 4 hours of sleep versus 4 hours and 20 minutes of sleep is not that different. So you have to do it. What you'll find is that when you make yourself do it, you'll become more responsible and you'll get it done every night. I even do it after I pull most of the time. So put that in context. My routine I talked about. Insights I gained, I'd say the main one again is that you start to express from the inside out your real intent, because there's a real independent willpower there, as opposed to just being the socially conditioned entity and then being driven by biological impulses. You develop a much stronger prefrontal cortex, independent willpower type of situation. Okay, that's probably the main thing I gained from it. Why is freedom from outcome important? Because it immerses you in the process, so you're more effective. Could you expand on the tree roots versus height analogy? Sure. One analogy I love is that the higher that you can grow as a tree, the higher that you do grow, if you're a tree, if you were a tree, the better developed the root system has to be so it doesn't tip. Meditation is the root system. And for example, take a celebrity who just gets what they want and gets what they want and gets what they want. Without that meditation type activity every day, it destabilizes them when things don't go their way. Something like meditation reminds you every day that no matter how hectic things get, you're going to return to calmness. And so you're not completely desperate for an outcome because you can feel happy either way. That's very fucking key right there. You might want to rewind and re-listen to what I said to you right there if you didn't fully catch it. Why is it not as good as going out? We talked about that. It's because a flow state activity is phenomenal, but that 20 minutes forces you to learn the channels to become present. If you really can't do this, then just go with purely a flow state activity, but I encourage you to try to stick with this. Depends on the person though. Some people I think just can't, that's fine. Then just do a flow state activity, you should be good. Let's see, how long until you see changes? The first 20 minutes of meditation is like the longest 20 minutes of your life. It's brutal. You'll have little tiny gaps of being present. And within around the first week, you might start to see some changes of becoming more present. And after about a month, you'll find that you become more actually present for some nice little gaps. After a couple years, the presence gets so grounded and deep into you that you just slip into it naturally. And actually at that point, the biggest challenge becomes even wanting to spend the 20 minutes on it because you don't notice that much of a shift. And that's a good thing. But funny enough, then you fall off the habit and then you go back to a lot of your old negative emotions. And then you wonder why, and you realize it's because you stopped. So you'll find with meditation, you'll fall off and fall back into it again and again. And it's like you need to fall off to learn why you shouldn't fall off. It's pretty funny. Initial hurdles, again, I think it's constantly finding an excuse not to do it. It's shocking to see how many excuses you'll find not to do meditation. What else? Does it help you to get in state when you're out? Oh yeah. When you do meditation, you tend to slip into state much, much easier. It's really shocking how quickly you slip into state when you go out to meet girls if you do meditation every day. I mean, it's really shocking. If you're someone with approach anxiety, you got to be doing this. Why do you pull hotter women? That's because usually when you approach a really hot girl, you become outcome dependent. So it makes you act weird. Meditation essentially simulates abundance. So if you had 10 girls at home, you'd be very calm and present with a hot woman, or you could just kind of simulate it. You could simulate it with meditation. So it's an amazing simulator of meditation. You see it with guys that do meditation. You can almost sense it in their eyes. They have a steadier eye contact, similar to guys that are in abundance with girls. Pretty much identical, actually. Do you need to do guided meditations? I think no, but do whatever you want. Notice a big theme of do whatever you want. Try with different stuff, figure out what works for you. What else? Do you have plateaus with it? Sure, yeah, just like game. So meditation is freakishly similar to game. Definitely freakishly similar to game, where you'll blast ahead and have these like the most amazing meditation sessions of your life. It's just like the best part of your day, and then other times you'll struggle with it and you will have plateaus, and that's expected. If you're sleepy, should you still do it? Yes. Train yourself to do it sleepy. What I'll do if I'm doing it sleepy is I'll be like back like that, back like that, and if I completely pass out, the alarm will wake me up. But you have to do it no matter what, because even if that's the most waste of time, ineffective session, you want to do it to keep the habit so that you don't keep missing and missing and missing, okay? What is the difference between guys like Eckhart Tolle, who say to be present all the time, versus meditation? Be present as much as you can, that's great, but meditation is a no bullshit, like, let's condition your mind into this type of behavior, all right? So that's, in my opinion, the difference. Does nutrition help? Yes. The more nutrition in your diet, the more present you're going to tend to be. The more that you get addicted to being present to the moment, the more that you're going to want to put good food in your body. There's actually entire subcultures in California that link nutrition to being present. It's pretty wild stuff on the West Coast. Okay. Which successful people do it? The really successful guy that promotes the heck out of meditation is Russell Simmons. You can read the book Do You and Super Rich, where he explains how to do it. Highly recommended. I've met Russell Simmons in real life. The dude is a pimp, a gangster who makes tons of cash and fucks extremely hot women and has incredible frame control. So check out Russell Simmons' stuff. In his book, he just seems so positive. You see him in real life, he's a pretty big gangster, actually. The vibe you'll get off him is pretty strong. Does it help eye contact? Yeah. Prefrontal cortex development? Yes. Develops the prefrontal cortex, gets you out of autopilot and into the conscious willpower part of your brain. drugs or alcohol compared to meditation. Meditation basically simulates the benefits of drugs and alcohol while being extremely sharp and clear thinking. If you drink or use drugs, I'd recommend that you do meditation and drop the alcohol and drugs. You'll be happy you did, and you can join such people as Russell Brand, who did the same thing. What if your mind just won't quiet? My recommendation personally, and you'd probably want to do your own research, is suffer it out. Literally just suffer it out. Seriously, just suffer it out, because eventually you'll train yourself. And keep reading books by people that are into this to learn more about what it means to be present to the moment, not thinking about the future or ruminating about the past, but just bang. Let's see here. I guess that's about it. It says, what do you actively stop thought? I guess was kind of the last question that I was sort of answering. Again, if you try to actively stop thought, what's more prone to happen is ineffective, because if you're like, don't think, that's not effective. So the 20 minutes of meditation, what they do is they actually train you to just shift awareness into the present moment. All right. So again, meditation is just not thinking for 20 minutes a day. But if you say don't think, that doesn't work. So simply train yourself to shift your awareness to becoming present. Meditation, I want you to think of it as very selfish. It's 20 minutes a day just to focus on you. It's 20 minutes a day to relax. It's 20 minutes a day to ground yourself. It's 20 minutes a day to ground you to the present moment. Think of meditation like taking creatine for lifting weights. If you just take creatine, that's not really going to do a lot. But if you lift weights and took creatine, it would do a lot, right? Or, you could compare it to, say, high amounts of protein if you don't want to take creatine. Say you take a ton of protein. Is that effective if you don't lift weights? No. If you do meditation and you don't go out, is that effective? No. It will do nothing, okay? It will just make you more chill. But if you take massive action and then you add the 20 minutes of meditation a day, then it does a lot. Just like if you lift weights and are hitting it up hard in the gym, if you do a lot of protein, it'll help you to grow. Okay, so think of it like that. It's not the end in itself, assuming that you're like a young guy who's not just like training yourself to be an anchor to the present moment for other people, but it's something that's just absolutely amazing that when combined with massive action is really good, okay? And I kind of emphasize that because when I see guys that just get into meditate, they're like, I'm focusing on the meditation, not all this other stuff. I'm like, ugh. Okay, ugh. Especially people that don't ground that experience of the present moment to reality. I think that can get even more whack, because actually you see a lot of people in this stuff get an identity out of being above the fray and on the mountaintop. They make this whole identity out of it, and when things break down, they're the most whiny little bitches you'll ever see. So I love the combination of keeping one foot in each world, the world of intent, like taking action, and the world of freedom from outcome, which is being present and bringing presence into whatever you're doing. I love that. So yeah, make it master the art of both. Okay, manifestation of your intent and getting more and more in touch with what your real intent is, but also stripping away the layers of attachment and becoming free of outcomes. So meditation helps you with one part, massive action is the other part. That's why you've seen these really intense speeches from me, like, take fucking action, gangster, dominate, things like that. And then you see these other speeches from me, like, free from outcome. There actually is no ultimate point. Actually, there's no point to this shit at all. So be present, right? And that's kind of what the human existence is like. Meditation is a habit that a lot of successful people use to achieve massive success. You'll find it to be highly invaluable to you. You'll love it. Take the time to learn it. Look into other sources than me. Look for conflicting opinions. Look for people who have different opinions than mine. Don't go so far into it that you become a woo-woo weirdo person, because that's just another form-based identity to take on. It's another trend, no different than being like a hip-hop type guy or a punk or a preppy. Being a spiritual woo-woo guy is just another one of those things. But look into it anyway, and look for other people that can, teach it to you. And basically, it's just something you do. So, sit here, wrap up for a second, showing you how it's done, because that was requested here. Again, I was cross-legged for a second there, and I'm just getting comfortable. First minute, what do? Little scratches, shift around, get comfortable. Give yourself that permission. Look around a bit. case you didn't figure it out, you were supposed to keep going for 20 minutes. Just because I stopped, it doesn't matter, okay? Do the 20 minutes. You'll like it, all right? I got you started. Do it. I'll see you soon.